on in. Come on in. Glad you're all able to make it through the icy tundra of the snowpocalypse that hit us last night. It was a terrible, terrible event. Many people were unable to be here today because there's ice on their car. All right, so let's pick up where we left off. One of the biggest problems that is going to happen in American society, that is going to continue to happen until we get some type of control on the economy, is going to be periods of expansion, economic expansion, that then come to a crushing, utter halt, because what happens is when times are good, people expand. All right? If you have a lot of money from your business, what do? And one of the things I love about people who are poor, they think the rich people take their money and they sit on it and they hide it. Is that what rich people do? No, what do rich people do? They spend it, they invest it. They invested in building new things, new infrastructure. They invested in buying more stock in certain businesses. And when that happens, that business has more money to invest in things. So what is going to happen when there's no control on the economy? Remember how I've told you previous times we've been together, is that there are the Federal Reserve today controls how much money is out there. The way they do it now is by controlling the interest rates and how much a bond is going to trade for on interest rates on a bond. So what happens is during this time where there is no control on the economy, you are going to have these periods of just boom, huge economic expansion, almost without anybody saying, hey, this train's going off a cliff. People are like, I don't care, I'm going to ride it while the riding is good. And what happens is they expand so far, and so greatly, they build on this infrastructure, that they build it to places where it's not needed. So it's not used anymore. All right? Good example, the railroads that I talked about last time. Remember the railroads, they're building to all these places. They're following all these mines. You know, we've got the big railroads here, but the other ones, you got the little headers that come off it that go all over creation. Those cost money. Why were they built? Because somebody somewhere thought that the expense now would have a profit later. If you have a rail line going to the Comstock load, you're going to make money, right? Because all that silver has to go somewhere and has to get to market. And the way it's going to get transported is on your train, which means people are going to be using your service. The problem is that you didn't build to the Comstock load. You built to Tombstone, Arizona. And there's nothing out there other than some guys that like to shoot each other at the OK Corral. It's not going to bring in the amount of profit necessary. So what happens is, and this is just an example, but what happens nationwide is that you have this huge period of just economic boom and then utter collapse. Now today we call them recessions. What they called them back then were panics, because people would panic. And they would freak out, and they'd stop doing whatever they were doing. Okay, and that's really kind of the worst thing to do. Try to hoard your money to save it. Back in 2003, President Bush said, you know what, we've got too many people not spending money. We need to jumpstart the economy. So every person in the United States that paid taxes got like a check for $300. Okay. And so you were supposed to go spend it. You weren't supposed to keep it. It was your income tax paid back to you a little bit early before you get your income tax refund. It's basically what it was. So when you got your income tax refund, it was a little bit less. But what happened is that money was given to you so you could go and spend it. That was the goal. Let's try to jumpstart the economy. And it worked a little bit. A lot of the plans that President Obama has done have been trying to do that. You had the cash for clunkers. Remember that? You had people getting like $2,500 when they just gave their cards to the government. The government would destroy them because they were old. I didn't like that too much because what it did is it really screwed out people who wanted to buy used cars. The used cars were very expensive because there were so few of them then. And then you had a trade in your appliance rebate type thing. You had all these things trying to jumpstart the economy. So that still kind of mentality still exists. But as you'll see when we talk about the Panic of 1873, that's kind of a cause, but it's not all of a cause. We have a whole bunch of things that happen, and they really just hit us at the same time. There are natural causes, and then there are man-made causes. The natural causes is in the Midwest, that area that we are slowly moving out to, and people are starting to live there. There's going to be a plague of locusts that just devour everything. If you've ever seen grasshoppers go through a field, they can strip a field in 30 minutes. There are reports where these locusts actually ate the handle off of one farmer's hoe. Okay?
So they're like bugs?
They're what?
They're like bugs.
They are grasshoppers of like a giant sort. I used to play out of my grandmother's church. They load the grasshoppers were these yellow grasshoppers. I mean, they were locusts that were about this big, and they had these hard shells. Freaky as all get out. And when they are in sheer numbers, they can just destroy anything that comes with any plant life that is anywhere near them. So, the Midwest is hit with these locusts, destroys crops. Yellow fever hits in the Mississippi River Valley. What is yellow fever? Today we know what yellow fever is. Back then they didn't know what caused it. Today what causes yellow fever? Mosquitoes pass it. Mosquitoes bite your blood. They have this germ in them. They inject it in you, and if you get it, your skin starts to turn yellow. Your eyes turn yellow. The whites of your eyes, not the actual iris. But then, as the disease progresses, you begin to vomit blood, and that blood is dried. And basically, what it is it looks like you're throwing up coffee grounds, and you throw up until you die. All right. Now, people don't know what causes it. They discover early in the pursuit of trying to figure out what causes yellow fever. They discover that it hits low-lying areas more than it does upper places on hills. So what occurs is people, whenever there's a yellow fever infection, people will move to the hills. And if you're like my town, my hometown that I grew up in, Brenham, they burned the city to the ground. There are 2 homes that are still around from that era, and they are famous because of that. They were both on hills. Another problem I told you about with settling the plains is that they were going through a period of going through a very wet season. They're having much more rain than they had on average, and that comes to an end. When that comes to an end, what happens? What?
The Dust Bowl.
The Dust Bowl. Well, not the Dust Bowl. We'll get there eventually. But what happens if you don't have water and you're a farmer?
Can't plant.
Crops die. So we have crops die, and people die. Okay? So what happens is manpower starts being taken out of the economy. Farmers can't plant because they're dead. It's kind of hard to do when you're dead. You can't. What you did plant, you can't harvest because locusts destroyed them. And what's the thing about planters? What's the thing about farmers? The most important thing about farmers, at the end of the season, what do? You harvest. What's more important than that? Anybody following what's going on with Monsanto, the Monsanto seed company? What's going on right now? If you buy from them, you are not allowed to save their seeds. You cannot save their seeds. You have to buy again every season. So what does that mean? It's genetically modified food, but it grows better, but you can't save their seed. Why would you want to save the seed? Next season. All right? Okay? So what happens is if you're a farmer and all of your seed is just consumed because your crops are consumed, what are you going to have to start over with next year? Nothing. Okay? And there's other issues that occur. Man-made causes. You have overbuilding, when they just described to you. People build more than what is actually needed, and then when it actually catches up to them, you've got a lot of infrastructure that is not necessary. There's going to be a lot of consolidation of businesses at this time period. Small businesses being bought up by bigger businesses. We'll cover that in a little bit. Insurance losses. You're going to have two epic fires that destroy Chicago in 1871, destroys 4 square miles of the city, and in 1872, Boston. In Boston, in our currency today, $1 billion worth of damage is done. Now, a good percentage of that, of all of those things were insured, but that causes the insurance companies, which had insured them, to take a big fall with losing that amount of capital that they had. In addition to this, the United States is going to switch to a gold-only standard in the Coinage Act of 1873. And the reason for that, I have to jump back a slide, is an issue that occurred with Germany. Remember how I told you at the end of the Civil War, France had invaded Mexico. Napoleon III is going to pull out because he doesn't like the fact that there's 10,000 American troops on the border of the United States with Mexico. He could be there in Mexico City within a couple of weeks. And Prussia was rattling their saber. Well, Franco and Prussia are going to go to war. It's going to be last 1870 to 1871, even though in the first encounter, France is defeated, and Napoleon III is captured. But not wanting to waste a good opportunity to kick your enemy when you're down, Prussia continues to beat the living tar out of France. In the end, France is going to pay 5 million of francs, which is their equivalent of the dollar, in gold in an indemnity. Basically, that's their way of saying, we're sorry we got our butts kicked by you. Here's $5 million in gold. Now, into the picture a man by the name of Otto von Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck is perhaps the greatest diplomat of the modern age. He is a German, wasn't German prince, he was a German leader, and he was responsible for building the coalition that was of German principalities to defeat Napoleon III. It was his idea to press the advantage of the attack and to continue to try to, after France was already down, to try to generate a German spirit. There's something that I need to explain here that's different about European matters than United States matters. When we talk about a nation, what are we talking about in the United States? The United States is a nation in our minds, correct? All right? And then our individual parts are states, okay? In Europe, it's not like that. If I were to ask you your nationality in the United States, you would say, I am an American, unless you're a Texan. Then you say you're Texan. Texans first, Americans second. All right? So what happens is, you're an American. So what happens, if you were to ask that of somebody in Europe, they would say, oh, I'm French, and that would mean, or I am German. Okay, like, so what the heck are you telling us? How's that any different? What we're talking about is a people group. I, with the name Frankie, am of German descent on my father's side. However, my family lived in St. Petersburg before we immigrated to the United States in 1854. Okay? Wait a minute, you say. St. Petersburg is in Russia. Yes, you're right. So why am I not Russian? Because in Europe, my nationality, my people group, my ethnicity is German. Okay? So in Germany, well, in the German area that we know about it today, they had 32 different German principalities. Different princes, different counties, different, just think about different little areas. They all had their own little prince. But they were kind of backward because they were all divided. So Bismarck comes up with the idea that says, if we can take this issue with Prussia, attack France, and draw all of these guys together and foster the spirit of connectedness at the German nationality, we can create our own state, that of Germany. Okay? You follow? A state is a political unit. A nation is an ethnic unit. I am an American because that is my nationality here in the United States. Over there, I would be German because that's my nationality. But then if I was living still there, I would be Russian and be a German Russian. Okay? Got you all confused.
I'm like, what?
All right. Anyway, we'll talk more about that when we get a little bit further. But what happens is he's going to create this new nation of Germany that is going to be forged together from this alliance. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, who's the big bad baddie in History 1302 that's going to really dominate the first half of this class? Give you a hint. We go to war with them twice. And it's not even 1945 before we fight them twice. And it's Germany. Okay? This is where they come together. This is where they start as a German state. Okay? The German nationality people are there, but they are now a political unit, and that is the state.
So they're a state.
What?
So they're a state.
They're a state now, yes, very important. They're their own nation. France is a state. England is a state. Germany is a state. Switzerland is a state. Okay? Now, because they got $5 million in gold payment for this war, Germany is going to say, we're done printing silver coins. We're done printing silver coins. We don't need to print silver in coins anymore because why? We have so much gold. All our coins are going to be made out of gold. Follow? This one. All right? Now this is a problem in the United States because who is the number one purchaser of the silver that we are exporting? Germany. So since Germany is not buying all our silver anymore, what's going to happen? All that silver that has been being taken to the port to ship over to Germany is just going to pile up. And that silver is continuing to be mined and mined and mined, and it's getting bigger, 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 bigger. Where's it going? Nowhere. Okay? So you have these silver mine owners who keep making all this silver. They're mining all this silver. And they are expecting somebody to buy it. And so it's getting bigger, 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 bigger. Now, if you have a company, and that company makes a product, what do you want to happen to that product? Somebody buy it. You want to sell it because when you sell it, what do you make? And you make money, and then what do you do with that money? What do you have to do with that money if you wish to continue making things?
Invest it back in the company. Make it better?
Abby, you still work at JJ's? Okay, Abby works at JJ's Snow Cones place. Okay? This is what happens. Do you own it? Okay, so you go there and you work there, and what happens every 2 weeks? What do you get in exchange for your time? Oh, you get your paycheck. Okay, you get your paycheck. So, if I'm a silver owner and Abby's working in my mine, and I make and she gets paid $5 an hour and get all this silver, I want that silver to be sold, because then what can I do? Pay Abby and all my other workers, and once I've paid all my other workers, what will I then have? Now I will have what is known as profit. Okay, but nobody's buying my silver. What's happening? Abby's not getting any money, and if Abby doesn't get any money, she's not going to work there anymore. And what's going to happen to me eventually? I'm going to go out of business because I can't pay her, and there's a lot of silver in there, but nobody wants it. Supply and what? Supply and demand, when it crosses, is the sweet spot, but if the demand for silver is through the floor and the supply is all over creation, what? Straight up? Nobody wants it. It's worthless. It's worthless. Basic economics. So what happens is that the United States at this time is on what is called a bimetal system. This is a big term that's going to affect us for a long time. Bimetallism. Okay? Bi means what? Two. Bicycle. 2 wheels, right? Okay. It means that we will accept gold and silver coins. The United States is printing gold and silver coins. Okay? That is what we did. Now, because of all of this silver piling up, we're like, whoa, wait a minute. We have way more silver than we need. We are going to stop bimetallism by passing the Coinage Act of 1873. We say we're going to stop that, and we are only going to accept gold. The United States is only going to accept gold as our method of coins. All right. Now let's do an example here. Okay. I brought some stuff here. The money. A little bit less. Look at there. Dollar, and a couple of change. A couple of pennies. All right. What is this? This is paper. Okay. This is called a banknote. This could also be called a greenback. I'll tell you why in a minute. This is called specie. Okay? It's also called a coin. It's also called specie. Because it used to be, this was made out of something worthwhile. It used to be silver. But then in 65 they changed it. And then in 71 we just completely went off the entire silver standard and gold standard. So there's nothing that our money is based on anymore other than the good word of the United States. It should be kind of scary to you. What? Kind of scary. So, all of those things add up to the start of the panic. Now, when things like the panic, when the panic hits, you have some ramifications. The first is that the stock exchange closes. If the stock exchange closes, what is the stock exchange used to do? See all these people on the floor of the stock exchange going like this, talking with their hands, right? They're buying bonds and selling bonds, and people are investing. If nobody's investing in your company, you do not have any money to do anything. One of the biggest broker houses in the nation, J. Cook & Company, fails. It goes bankrupt. This recession, this panic, is going to last for 10 years. Now, what's it going to do? One of the major problems is at this time period there is nothing protecting the common day laborer. Nothing protects the laborer from management. You could be there for 10 years and you're fired. There's no tenure, there's nothing to protect you or your job. Management can come in and say, hey, I've been able to keep you on But guess what? Instead of $10 an hour, here's a penny for a day. Well, there's 20% unemployment, you see. That means not everybody can find a job. You're going to be tempted to work for that because you know there's no better jobs out there. All right? There's nothing looking out for the little citizen. And what this has a tendency to do in many instances is Americans are going to do what we've done since the creation of the first colony. When things get bad, what does Texas do? What does the United States citizens have a tendency to do? We pack up, we move west, we start over. Okay? We pick up, we move, and we start heading out west. Now, with all that going, this lends itself, or this heads us into the 1876 election. Now, in the 1876 election, Ulysses S. Grant says, "Hey, I want to be a third-term president." I always think of him talking with a very, gruff voice. It's not like Patton, George Patton. If you've ever seen the movie Patton, they've got George C. Scott playing Patton. He's like, "I'm going to go kick the Russians in the rear with them." And the real Patton was like, "Hey, we're going to beat them, we're going to tear them up." He just had a very different voice, but the image of Patton is different for most people. So we don't know how Grant sounded. It was kind of cool to find out. I always picture him having a kind of rough voice because he was a cigar smoker and whiskey drinker that had a sense to do something to you. So what happened is the Republicans, when they hear Grant wants to run for a third term, they're like, "Oh, no, I don't think so. Don't you remember the whiskey ring? Don't you? What are you talking about? No, you're not going to be our candidate." They nominate Rutherford B. Hayes, who was a Civil War general as well, from Ohio. And the Democrats nominate Samuel J. Tilden from New York. Now, Tilden had become very famous as governor of New York in dealing with this group called Tammany Hall. Have you ever seen the movie Gangs of New York? You ever seen the movie Gangs of New York? You have a lot of... Basically what happens is that New York was so corrupt at the time that basically you had this group of unelected officials known as met at this hall called Tammany Hall that was really the ones who called the shots for how the government worked and they functioned. When the election results come in from this election, it is found that 3 states are in the three last remaining Reconstruction states, Florida, South Carolina, and Louisiana, have all submitted 2 sets of electoral votes. Okay? The states are the ones who decide how the electoral votes come in. Florida went and said, "Hey, if you want to each candidate, if you want our votes, you have to pay us $200,000. Okay, $200,000, and you'll buy our votes as electors." Now, what happens? What happens is what should happen. We've seen this before in 1301. What happens? If there's no clear electoral winner, what happens? It's going into the House of Representatives. Each state gets a vote. Well, they didn't do that. What they decided to do was do something, I won't call it unconstitutional, but I'll call it extra-constitutional, outside the grounds of the Constitution. And what they do is they create a constitutional electoral commission. And this electoral commission is going to decide who gets the presidency. So these people are going to be the ones that decide. If you look at the map, it comes down to Hayes got 185 electoral votes, 184 for Tilden, and then 1519. There's one elector in Oregon that was kind of messed up. So you had a total of 20 electoral votes that were up for grabs. 400, Rutherford B. Hayes won 4,000,000 36,000 votes. Tilden won 4.3 million. So he won more popular votes, but as you know from the 2000 election, what does that matter? Nothing at all. What matters is the electoral votes. So this electoral commission meets, and basically what it comes down to is that although Tilden had the better hand, the Democrats say, listen, to the Republicans, if you finally end Reconstruction, allow Louisiana, Florida, and South Carolina back into the Union, we'll let the Republicans win. Okay? They say, we're going to let the Republicans win if you do this. So the Republicans say, sure, cool, that's great. And they do. Hayes becomes the next president. He's going to serve 1874 to 1881. I get that to be bigger. He is going to end Reconstruction, but because of the long time period in which Reconstruction went on in the South, that solid South in which they will be opposed to anything, anything Republican for the next 100 years, is going to emerge. It's going to be known as the solid South. He is going to try during his administration to reform civil service. However, he does not get any support. So one thing we have not discussed yet, and is going to actually start hitting during Hayes' administration, is the enormous amount of debt the United States rung up during the Civil War. Because it was so expensive for the United States during the war, they issued what were known as, they issued paper money to try to control their gold and silver supply. Now, these were known as greenbacks. Hello. These were known as greenbacks because on the back of these notes, well, they were green ink. All right? Now, what would happen is these were bonds. Whereas you would give the government your money, and they would give you this bond, and then when it matured, you would get paid back $5. So you may give them $3, and then in 20 years, you would get back you would get your money back with interest. So in this instance, it's a $5 bond. So the United States during the war racks up $382 million in debt of these greenbacks. All right, so $382 million in debt. Because of the Coinage Act of 1873 that dropped silver specie, silverites, people who favored silver, were called silverites, started calling that the crime of 73 because it was taking money out of circulation. See, there is a group of people then as there is now who believe that the more money there is in circulation, the better it is because the more money that is in circulation, the easier it is for you to pay off your debt. Now, that is true. If today I go and I buy a house for $100,000 and all of a sudden inflation hits and $100,000 will buy me a Coke, that contract with the bank still says $100,000. It doesn't say anything about inflation. So what will happen is I can go in to the bank and put a $100,000 bill down and say, my debt's good. We're paid off. And the bank has to take that. All right, you follow? Okay? There's a great scene. I know you guys think I talk movie too much, but I found that it works best with reaching students. I would think that you may have seen before. There's a great scene in Back to the Future 2. How many guys have seen it where Marty goes into the future? All right, he goes into the future, and he's supposed to go into the diner that he went into in the 50s, and he gives himself a Coke. Goes and gets himself a Coke, and Doc gives him a $50 bill. He goes up there, gives him a $50 bill, says, I'd like a Coke. They give him a Coke. He's expecting to get change back, as we would today if you go to buy a Coke with a $50 bill, yes? But he doesn't get any change back because why? Inflation has hit, and it's so bad that $50 now buys you a Coke. All right? But the thing is, the people who want more money on the market don't think that far in advance. They think if there's more money in the system now, I can pay off my debts. And if I can pay off my debts now, that is a good thing. All right? For you, it's a good thing. For the nation as a whole, it's a bad thing. So when we drop the silver as a species, silver being in coins or being accepted, it is going to cause a lot of silver owners, and silver mines especially, to be very upset. All right? And they call this the crime of 73. They are blaming the Panic of 73 on this issue. Now, in 1875, Congress is going to pass the Specie Payment Resumption Act. This is going to establish a redemption rate of one gold dollar is equal to one greenback. Okay, a $1 greenback is worth $1 in gold. Follow? So what would happen is you would take your greenbacks into a bank, and you would give them, here's my greenback, $5. They, in turn, would give you $5 worth of gold. Okay? Now, the goal here was to pay off $82 million of this $382 million in debt. That is the goal, because they do not want this money in circulation. The money that is in circulation at this time is coins. There's some debate as to whether or not this is even constitutional, because if you look at the powers of Congress, Congress has the power to coin money. It doesn't say anything about printing money. What's the difference between coining money and printing money? There's something, until 65, there was actually something of value in this. This, you can just make it yourself. Massachusetts make wooden nickels. What's the problem with wooden nickels? They're what? They go bad? They're great? Okay. What else? They're wood. They're a natural resource. You can just make them. You and some of your buddies can go in the back and whittle some out and have a whole handful of wood nickels. I know you're saying, why would I want to do something like that? Yeah. Now, so they start paying off this debt. But the Silverites are going to get enough of a leverage in Congress to get Congress in 1878 to pass the Bland-Allison Act, which reintroduces silver. So now, 16 ounces of silver is the equivalent of 1 ounce of gold. Now, why? Now, I know the Olympics are coming up, and you know gold is the best you can get. Then there is silver, and it comes in second. And then there is bronze, right? Why is 16 ounces of silver the equivalent of 1 ounce of gold? Okay, there's more gold than there is silver. Gold is more precious. What? Okay, more silver. What else? Why this ratio? Silver, I need to put an R.
Because gold's more. And I guess...
Why is gold more? Why? I love this. Why is gold more?
Because it's gold Do they have an excess of silver?
They have an excess of silver. Yes, they do.
The amount of silver.
All right, girls, okay. All right, we're going to talk just to the girls now, because we're getting into jewelry. Guys are like, unless it's an Aggie ring, I don't care. All right, so here's the deal. Okay. Try to remember it. What is forever?
Diamonds.
Ah, see, look, listen, got it. What is forever? Diamonds are forever. Why? Because diamonds are what?
Wait,
Why are diamonds expensive? Why?
they're rare.
No, they freaking are not.
Well, because they're
They
rare.
are not. There's a cartel that controls the diamonds, and they only allow so many out on the market at a time to drive up what? The price. Okay? That is why diamonds are so rare. And talk about the best marketing campaign in the world. All I have to say is, what is forever? And every girl goes, diamonds! Right? Okay? So, why are diamonds precious? Because somebody says they are. Why is this 16 ounces of gold equal 1 ounce of gold? 16 ounces of silver equal 1 ounce of gold? Because Congress says it is. Is it? No. But Congress says it is, so therefore it must be. All right? And here's the deal. Remember that huge pile of silver that's just getting bigger, 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 bigger? Part of the Bland-Allison Act says that the United States will buy $2 to $4 million per month. Their money, not our money, probably a couple $1 billion worth today. And we'll buy that per month, and we'll mint it, and we'll put it into the economy. Okay. Why? Because they said because the guys who own the silver mines say, somebody's got to buy this. Where can we find people to buy this? So where can they find people to buy it? Congress, that's right. Find people in Congress stupid enough to buy this. Now, luckily enough, the Treasury Department is never going to do this. They're never going to buy this much gold, this much silver and put it into the economy because it would be disastrous. That doesn't mean they're not going to try. Now, this heads us into the election of 1880. The Democrats are going to nominate the Civil War General Winfield Scott Hancock, thinking, hey, Ulysses S. Grant won, he was a general. Hayes won, he was a general. Maybe if we put up a general, he'll win too. Oh, that's crazy noise. He'll win too. Okay. That's the plan. Is that a good reason to nominate somebody for office? No. Hayes says, I'd like to run, but everybody's like, no, we're good. We don't want you. The Republican Party is split during this time, and the issue that they're split is over what should be done in regards to civil service. They break into two groups. The stalwarts, who, if you are a stalwart, you like how things are and you're going to stay there no matter what, who say, no, patronage is good. We like it. We don't want to reform civil service. Okay? So, stalwarts don't want civil service reform. Next are the half-breeds. Because a half-breed is somebody that is just half something. All right? Okay? If you have a dog that is a half-breed, it might be like part Labrador Retriever and part Poodle. Okay? A Labradoodle. Okay? It's a half-breed. It's not full blood of one thing. It's half of one thing, half of another. The half-breeds are called half-breeds because they are half Republicans. They're not real Republicans. They're only half Republicans. That's what they are half of. That's why they're half-breeds. Now, they're going to fight. They're going to try to come up with who they're going to choose to be their candidate. Eventually, they come up with James Garfield. James Garfield of Ohio. In the election, Garfield wins. Why? Because the Democrats are going to lose. Why are the Democrats going to lose? Because they're Democrats. And they're going to lose. Okay. Democrats are going to lose because what's still happening? Waving the bloody shirt. Who started the Civil War? Democrats. Who killed your dad? Democrats. Who destroyed the economy? Democrats. Who kept people enslaved? Democrats. Or Democrats.
So basically they have a bad reputation.
Yes, very bad reputation. Very bad reputation. In the end, James Garfield wins the presidency. Now, okay, somebody who had me last semester should say, whoa, Frankie, problem. Problem, what's the problem? What is the problem? I'll give you a hint. What? Look at the election year. Oh! Sergio got it. What? In the 1830s, the Indian chief Tenskwatawa curses the American people and says, every year in which a president is elected, in the year 0, that president will die in office. First president to do that, William Henry Harrison, elected 1840, dies right after, a month after giving his inaugural address. Next president to be elected is 1860, a guy by the name of Abraham Lincoln. Goes to the theater with his wife. Boom. Next guy, elected in 1880, is James Garfield. James Garfield is President of the United States. And you would think if you're elected that year, you'd be like, maybe I should have some guards. Maybe I should have people that, walk with me and protect me. In 1881, he's elected president. He's not going to serve very long. When he is called and given the opportunity to speak at his college, his alma mater. And he's going to take a train to his alma mater, so there he is, like any other person in the United States, standing at a railroad station, just waiting for the train to come that he's going to get on and he's going to take. When this guy by the name of Charles Guiteau walks up, pulls out a gun, boom! Shoots him. He yells out, I am a stalwart of stalwarts. Now Arthur is president. I am a stalwart of stalwarts. Now Arthur is president. Well, Chester A. Arthur is his vice president. And the president, when the president dies, the vice president becomes president, right? But here's the thing. Just because you were shot doesn't mean you died. Okay? So they take him back to the White House, they stretch him out on this table, and then they call in all these different doctors. And the doctors come in, and they take their forceps, and they probe around the wound, and they try to find the bullet, and they try to find it. They actually get Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, to come, and he had invented a device that could find metal balls, and he's using it on the president to try to find out where the ball was so they can do surgery to find it.
Wouldn't that have radiation?
Huh?
Wouldn't that have radiation?
No, not yet. Or if it did, I've never seen that being used as an example. But what happens is they did more damage to him, the doctors did more damage to him, digging inside him, than the bullet did. And he dies a month later after being shot. During that time, there is no president, because the president is still the president. The vice president becomes president when the president dies. Not incapacitated, but what? Dies. So he is now dead. Now, what had happened is Arthur is going to be chosen. Arthur was chosen to be the vice presidential candidate to Garfield because Garfield was a half-breed and got more support in the Republican convention, and Arthur was the stalwart that came in second. Okay? So Guiteau, who was clinically insane, thought that if you killed the half-breed president, then the stalwart would be able to help him out. Now, why would he be able to help him out? What were stalwarts for?
Keeping everything the same.
Keeping everything the same. Now, why would he be concerned about keeping everything the same? You see, Guiteau was trying to get a job as a postmaster. He wanted to work for the United States Postal System. And the way he got that job was to not kill somebody, but be appointed by the president. Garfield's half-breed policy that might change that policy would cause him to not get that job. You see, they had disgruntled postal workers back then, too. So although a lot of people expected Arthur's administration to not be very effective, it really was. He had quite a bit of success. Because the president was killed by a deranged office seeker, the number one bill that is going to be introduced during his administration is the Pendleton Act, passed in 1883. And what it does is it reforms civil service. It is going to create a classified list in which bureaucratic jobs are listed. And those bureaucracies would have exams that you would have to take and to see if you were qualified for taking this job. My wife had to do it back when we were just married. She was trying to get a job with the Social Security Department. And she did really well on the whole test until she got to this one part where, it says, you have to speak Spanish. I remember having an issue with that. Like, well, why do you have to speak Spanish? This is Social Security. Social Security is only available for people who are United States citizens, and why would a United States citizen not speak Spanish? I was like 21 at the time. Didn't know how the world worked. So what happened is the stalwart, who wasn't supposed to do anything to reform civil service, so Guiteau could get his job, actually ends up reforming the whole blasted thing. It doesn't go into effect during his administration, but it is reformed. He gets the credit for it being introduced. Now, in 1883, Congress is going to turn its attention again to the tariffs. The tariff is going to be lowered from 35 to 40%. And this is probably one of the most debated pieces of legislation Congress has ever seen. It had so many amendments to it and so many modifications that when asked about this tariff, one of the congressmen who voted on it said, it's kind of like my dog. It's a mongrel. It's got a piece of this in it, it's got a piece of this in it, piece of this, piece of this, piece of this, piece of this, piece of this. It's a mutt. But what it did do is it lowered the tariff by an average of about 1.47%. Okay? Now, you see this picture right here. I don't know if you can read it all right. But, Tammany Hall, this is your funeral, and here's the leaders of Tammany Hall. They're walking, they're all bruised and beaten up. Because, what did I say about Tammany Hall? They were the ones who, in New York, called the shots and appointed people to all the positions. And now the civil service reform is going to change that. It's going to break their back. Oh, come on. Come on, almost there. There we go. All right. So this brings us to one of the major issues that is going to affect the United States at this time period. Now, we like to think of ourselves as a nation of immigrants, right? Yes? Correct? We are a nation of immigrants. And therefore, we are all inclusive to all immigrants, correct? That's what you've been taught. That's how you've been led to believe all your life. But is that true? Well, you will find out that the answer to that really is no. In 1793, Congress passes its first immigration bill. And that immigration bill says that we will allow for citizenship people from Western Europe because they are the type of people that we want. So what are we talking about? We're talking really about English people. Okay? We're not talking about Eastern European people like the Slovaks, the Czechs, any people like that. We're not talking about the Irish. We're not really talking about the French. We're not really, for being a nation of immigrants, it's kind of taking. We don't want the Spanish. No, those people, we don't want those people. All right, those aren't the people that we want. But during the 1880s, we start seeing an influx of immigrants that are coming to the United States that don't really fit the criteria of people that we have accepted before. Now, there is a word that is called nativism, or there's a word, and it is nativism, and that is a belief that people have that their nation is the best. Not nationalism, but their nation is the best, and that what they do is the best. Okay? If I were to stay up here and say, let's see, it'd be really, really bad. I, as a white male, everything that I do in my family and in my city as a white male is the best, because I am a white male. All right? All right? And when you come over from your nation, you need to leave all your bad things over there. Still hear that today. Right? Have all these people move from California to Texas. One thing we want is, hey, you caused your nation to fail. I mean, you caused your state to fail with all your crazy ideas. Leave your crazy ideas over there and understand what makes Texas great is that we don't put up with idiots like you. I hear that all the time. Why? It's true. Right? It is. You look at all the crazy stuff that made California fail. The people who did that are trying to come to Texas now because they actually want a job. All the same thing happens. So what happens is we don't like. Okay, so I speak English, so everybody has to speak English. All right. I go to church at the Baptist church. Everybody has to go to church at the Baptist church. Well, wait a minute. I'm not Baptist. You are now. Okay? We don't want anything like that. I don't drink, so none of you drink. Of course, none of you are over 21, so you don't drink anyway. So, those are the things that, with nativism, my way is best, your way is wrong. Okay? So what happens is we start having a lot of people move into the area. We start having a lot of people come in, and this gives us a lot of concern. Like, one of the major issues is in California. There's quite a bit of Chinese people moving, immigrating. And we don't want that because we don't want the Chinese coming to the United States because they're taking jobs. All right? Sounds very familiar. One of the big issues that we're dealing with today in Texas is, well, actually all over, is what? Illegal immigration, right? We don't want people coming from Mexico to the United States because they take what? They take our jobs. Yeah. When was the last time you saw somebody of Anglo descent on the top of a roof in August putting on a new roof? Okay. So that's one of the big issues that's really funny is that every time you see this Every time somebody gets up there and says, we need to close the border to Texas because, blah, 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 blah. These people are taking our jobs. As soon as they do that, what happens is that, especially down in the border region, you have farmers begging for workers because they can't find anybody to work because all those jobs that people are refusing to, all those jobs that they don't want these illegal immigrants to take are what? Are jobs they don't want. All right? So, that's nativism. I think if I could, I just nailed it on the head there. Nativism. Somebody who doesn't think that people should come to Texas and do the jobs that they're taking all our jobs. No, they're not. They're doing jobs you won't take. That's just how it is. Okay? So basically, the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 does just that. It excludes Chinese from coming to California. Chinese are not allowed to immigrate into the United States. Makes California very happy. Okay? I love this one. Immigration Act of 1882. You could not pass a bill like this today. It said certain undesirable classes were not allowed to enter into the nation. We would not allow convicts to come into the United States, lunatics, idiots, and people likely to become public charges. People that would immigrate and then would be it would be the responsibility of citizens of the United States to take care of them. Okay, so we don't want idiots. Can we ship all the ones that are here out?
There's no one left.
Convicts? Oh, there you go. Oh man, what did I see? I was watching television last night, and this guy said that he brings. Oh, I was watching Celebrity Chef Cook-Off with my wife, and they had Penn and Teller. I have Penn from Penn and Teller on there, and they asked him, "Who are you playing for?" And he says, I'm playing for the. Oh gosh, I have to look it up. I'm playing for the American Intellectual Disability group, and basically it's like the people who have intellectual issues. And I was like, so like 98% of the American people, I mean, there's a war going on in the Ukraine right now, a civil war in which people are being targeted and labeled subversives by their cell phones being tracked, being in this vicinity, and you guys are all concerned with what happened to Justin Bieber, Not you, I'm using you as, other people, because I know you guys are smart, all right? So the Immigration Act, undesirable convicts or idiots. And then the Edmunds Act. Now the Edmunds Act is aimed specifically at a group of people that live right over here. Utah. Mormons. Okay? It defines marriage as a male and a woman, a man and a woman, and that's it. Why? Because Mormons were known for being polygamous. All right? And I would not be surprised if that's the next civil rights issue after homosexual marriage gets pushed through. Because why not? Go slippery slope argument. If you allow one, or would you allow another? If you change the definition of marriage to one. Yes, sir?
Well, just for record, we don't practice that.
I'll let you go with that. I have my mentor at Salem was Mormon, and he said that they're sex, S-E-C-T-S. So, cool. Now, guys, before you get excited about that whole concept, it was the women that chose, not the men. So, you're thinking, woohoo, I could be married to more than one woman. I'll tell you, I've been married to one woman for 17 years. I know, but not one and the second one, there's just too much trouble. Okay? You can tell her I said that. You can tell her I said that. Okay? She'll say, darn right. Oh, come on. That is absurd. Can I just go backwards? That'd be awesome if I could. No. What? see if I can. Sometimes it freezes up when I do this. Let's see. All right. So this brings us to the election of 1884. The Democrats are going to choose the governor of New York City, Grover Cleveland, and the Republicans are going to nominate James G. Blaine of Maine. This is going to be a very fun election because in this election we have quite a bit of memorable issues. James Blaine had been a member of the Senate for a while and had been charged with corruption. There were some people that believed that he could not be chosen as their candidate for the Republicans because he was so corrupt, with this cloud of corruption that was over him. And these people who opposed him were called the Mugwumps. All right? They were called the Mugwumps. So they opposed Blaine. Now, although he had charges of ethics violations, things that necessarily aren't legal but aren't illegal, but do not reflect on his character, he would release a series of letters that were written between him and a man by the name of Mulligan that showed that he was innocent. They were addressed and they were read on the floor of the Senate, but since he never allowed these to be published by the newspapers, these charges still stuck. Now, in Grover Cleveland's response, for his campaign for office, this cartoon made a very famous appearance in a lot of newspapers. Here we have Grover Cleveland, governor of New York, who supposedly fathered a bastard child while he was governor. Now, the woman here is hiding her face, and it says, "I want my paw," and Cleveland is, stomping his feet, got his fingers, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And at the time, they didn't have paternity tests, all right? So the woman in question had a series of male callers who could also possibly have been the father. But the fact that a guy was running for president of the United States and was possibly the father of an illegitimate child was just a whole bunch of fun for the other side. So there was during the campaign, people would walk around going, "Mom, Mom, where's my paw? Gone to the White House, ha, ha, ha!" Was the response. Okay? So, and then the Democrats would counter that by going, "Blaine, Blaine, the continental liar from the state of Maine." Okay? Not as good as "Mom, Mom, where's my paw? Gone to the White House, ha, ha, ha." But still pretty good, I think. In the election, Grover Cleveland wins. He wins the presidency. Now, he is the one who is going to see that the Pendleton Act goes into effect. He is going to be responsible for creating the Civil Service Commission, which is going to be the entity that issues the test that you will take if you're interested still today in the civil service. He is going to veto quite a large number of bills. At the time, he had the highest number. The problem is, the person who's going to succeed him at passing or having more vetoes is going to be FDR, because FDR is what? He's in the office a longer time. During his administration, a surplus appeared in the Treasury. And what that meant is that the government was spending less than they were bringing in. So what he decided to do was to try to counteract that, to make money dearer. Okay? The way you make money dearer is you have less on the market. So what's a good way to get less money on the market very easily? Stop buying silver. So he says, he orders the Treasury to stop buying silver. Right? They're still buying silver, but they're not putting it into the economy. So what happens is when they stop buying this silver, the silverites get mad. He's going to veto a Civil War pensions bill that raised the amount of pension, basically an amount of money that Union Civil War soldiers got. And it also lowered the amount of time that you were enlisted to receive this pension down to just having to be in for 6 months. And then he's going to veto a Texas seed bill, which Texas was going through a very bad drought at the time, and Congress had passed a bill that called for $10,000 worth of seed to be purchased and sent to Texas so that they could recover from the drought. They lost all of their seeds to start again. He would veto this, saying that that is not an action of Congress. That is not something that Congress should do. It is not a right in the Constitution, or it's not something that Congress has the authority to do. All right, so okay, then the Mills bill. Don't put your stuff up. I got 3 minutes. I got 1 minute. I can do it. This brings us to the election of 1888. Cleveland is going to run on tariff reform. The Republicans don't want that. By the way, did you notice? I didn't say that. I kind of skipped over it. Cleveland, a Democrat, first Democrat to win since the Civil War. The Republicans are going to nominate Benjamin Harrison. The result is that Grover Cleveland is going to win a larger percentage of the popular vote. Let me look here. Cleveland wins 5,540,000 votes, but Harrison wins 5,439,000 votes. 5,439,000 votes, sorry. In this election, Harrison wins because he wins more of the electoral vote than does Cleveland. So Cleveland is defeated, although he won more votes. Okay? All right. We'll see you guys on Thursday.